about 15, 16 years, you know, and it actually started a little bit before that. Probably '99 was when I probably published my first thing. So it's about that time frame though. And I mean, I'd always wanted to make comics. That was what I wanted to do with my life. So, and I knew that at a pretty young age. So I've just always had, everything I've done has had that goal, was moving toward that. I worked at comic shops. I went to comic book conventions. I met editors. I met pros. I gleaned tips and tricks. You know, anything I could do to make that happen, I did. So that's it's very simple that was my thing. You know, always was wanting to make that happen. When you're a kid, you know, no one tells you can't draw. You know, like when you're a kid, you draw, and that's it. It works. What happens is cognitively at a certain age, you realize that thing that you think is an elephant doesn't really look like an elephant. You know, and then you're like, well, I can't draw anymore because I can't draw stuff that looks like stuff that I want it to look like. And when you lose that ability, that's when most people stop their art careers completely, is they stop because they're not able to create realism the way that they see it in their head. And I had that, but I was much more interested in comic books. I was much more interested in comic book art, and I was much more interested in superheroes. And you know, that was something that I oftentimes wanted, you know, to work on. So everything I did was really, it wasn't worried about being hyper realistic. It was worried about being, you know, super heroic. And you know, my dad worked for the federal government, worked for the Department of Justice, and we moved around a lot. And when you move around a lot, you look for the things that are the same everywhere you go. So like I could pick up comics anywhere and be like, all right, that's what I wanted. That's the thing, you know, that's what I wanted to do.
How many characters have you created over the years, or is that just?
It depends, because like when you do like my own creator-owned work, like Dream Thief and Season of the Witch and Heaven's Devils, the stuff that I did like that, there's lots of, every character in there I created or co-created with my artist. And then at Marvel and DC, like at Marvel I haven't created much. Like my claim to fame there is I created a SHIELD agent that I use in almost the stuff I do. And in DC I've created El Diablo, but then in my new El Diablo series I'm creating new characters pretty much every issue for that reason. That I want there to be more Latino and Latina superheroes. So there's a new Latina superhero that appears in El Diablo Suicide Squad Most Wanted #2. There's other characters that's having their first appearance in my run for that very reason, that I want there to be more diversity, and I want that, I want to be able to leave my mark. Also, no one tells me no. Like, no one's like, you can't do that. They're like, sure, whatever, have fun, you know. And that's very empowering, actually, to have your editorial team be like, yeah, knock it out, you know, kick its ass. My family is Tejano. We're, you know, from the south part of Texas, and I grew up wanting to be Canadian so I could root for Wolverine because he was my favorite superhero, but because Canadians had the coolest superhero and Mexicans had no superheroes. We didn't have anybody that was worth a shit, and there weren't any. There's basically no Mexican superheroes in almost any comic book mainstream-wise, Marvel or DC. You have to dig really deep to find them. And on television, where that was the Super Friends, where they had the diversity movement in Super Friends, where they had Apache Chief and Samurai and Black Vulcan. It wasn't until the very end that they brought in a Mexican guy named El Dorado. He was awful. He was terrible. And I remember thinking, that's my guy. That's who I get to root for, like El Dorado, and he sucks. Well, now El Dorado, there's like these action figures that are actually really cool of El Dorado, but he's never appeared in comic books still, and he's actually going to appear for the first time in my new El Diablo series. I'm like, I'm using El Dorado because I'll be damned if that guy isn't a real comic book character, like, because he's not. He's never been in a comic book before, so I'm going to use him in my new El Diablo series.
Give him some.
I'm going to make him awesome. I'm going to make him awesome. I always hated him, so now I'm going to make him awesome. That's
okay, cool.